Welcome back to Rare Connection, where we delve into the world of rare diseases, connect individuals with similar conditions, and strive to find hope and treatment for those facing the challenges of the unknown. I'm Joanna, your host today, and we have an extraordinary guest joining us. Meet Nico, a beacon of inspiration and activism in the rare disease community. Nico lives with congenital central hypoventilation syndrome, or CCHS, a condition affecting fewer than 3,000 people globally. But his story is far from defined by his diagnosis. Nico's journey is one of resilience and advocacy. From his impactful initiative and from his impactful contributions to the CCHS Network Incorporated, where he spearheaded initiatives and provided unwavering support to families navigating similar paths, to his pivotal role in shaping disability activism on a broader scale. Nico's dedication knows no bounds. After witnessing the loss of friends and facing his own battles, Nico shifted his focus to empower the disabled community at large through his podcasts, videos, and his enlightening series, Your Disabled Joy. He amplifies voices, shares stories, and celebrates the profound resilience and joy found within the disabled experience. Today, Nico serves as the chairman of the Philadelphia Commission of People with Disabilities, a member of the 2021 Disability Hall of Fame, and a trustee of the impactful grant-making organization, Awesome Disability. Additionally, he fosters a supportive community for disabled leaders through his initiative Off the Record. Joining us as Nico shares his remarkable journey, insights, and unwavering commitment to advocating for inclusion, empowerment, and above all, the joy found within every individual's journey. Can you share with us what it's like living with congenital central hypoventilation syndrome? How has this impacted your daily life?
Sure. Joanna, thank you so much. That was a really great introduction of me. Congenital central hypoventilation syndrome, or CCHS, is an ultra-rare nervous system disorder where my body's automatic impulse to breathe is really suppressed. So I, like everyone else with CCHS, need to use mechanical ventilation when I'm asleep or when I'm sick. CCHS is genetic, so there are different levels of severity, from barely affected to significant impact. So CCHS can also result in eye weakness and in cardiac pauses. So obviously, I'm wearing glasses today, and I also have a cardiac pacemaker. I'll pause here to offer a visual description of myself for anybody who's listening in or anybody who is from the low vision or blind community. I'm a white man with parted blonde hair, large blue and brown spectacles. I'm seated and I'm wearing a orange t-shirt. So as Joanna has mentioned, there's only about under 3,000 cases of CCHS globally. And this means that CCHS is an orphan disease. There's not a lot of research being done. There are no drug interventions or other cures being investigated. Medical knowledge of CCHS is unfortunately very limited. So how this kind of impacted me is that I began doing disability advocacy work by focusing only on CCHS. I really wanted to benefit other families and other people with CCHS to make sure that they had the resources and support that I had when I was younger, and that my family had when they were starting their own CCHS journey.
Mhm. You have been deeply involved in the CCHS Network Incorporated. Can
Yes.
you tell us about your experience serving on the board and your contributions to the community?
Absolutely. So as I mentioned, I'm a very lucky man because I've always had that disabled support, and I've always had people in my corner, shall we say. My own mother began the support group that would eventually become the CCHS Family Network, and I was honored to serve on the board of that nonprofit from 2015 to 2021.
Mhm.
One of the most proud moments, honestly, of my time with that network is helping to facilitate our 2018 Global Family Conference
Mhm.
in uh, California, in St. Louis, sorry. Uh, and then also less flashy, but much also impactful would be how I helped redesign our website at cchsnetwork.org, making sure that no matter where or when people needed CCHS information, they could find it online. Um, I loved helping new CCHS families. When you're hit with a rare diagnosis, you want to learn so much, and you want to be so helpful, but you also have to take care of yourself, your own emotions, and other people in your family as well. So it can be very confusing, although there's also lots of opportunities, right?
Mhm.
Uh, and helping families kind of navigate those allegorical waters was a huge honor for me.
Mhm. So, going backwards a little, how were you diagnosed and when were you diagnosed?
Excellent question, Joanna. Sometimes I forget to include these things because CCHS is my life. Like a
Mhm.
lot of CCHS cases, I was diagnosed shortly after birth. So I was born in 1988. I came out and my I wasn't breathing on my own. I was turning blue. The doctors had to like take me away from my parents and give me an emergency tracheotomy, which is how I was vented through the first 6 or 7 years of my life, I would say.
Mhm.
Now I'm vented through a BiPAP, a face mask, so it's much less invasive, um, and it's similar in size and function to any CPAP machine. But BiPAP is a bit more involved, having both an inhalation pressure and exhalation pressure.
Right. You were lucky to be diagnosed at birth because so many are missed with
Yeah.
rare conditions, myself being included. And
Mhm.
um, let's see, could you celebrate your transition and focus from focusing primarily on CCHS advocacy to broader disability activism? What motivated this shift?
Sure. Um, I think in 2020, a lot of things happened. We had a global pandemic that disproportionately affected disabled populations globally, right? Not just in the US. And um, a lot of us in the disability community lost a lot of good friends, myself included. And I began to realize that even if our diagnoses were different between CCHS or anything else, a lot of our challenges, a lot of our struggles remained the same, or at least were similar. At the same time, I was getting a taste for more and more of civic life, wanting to be more and more involved. And the quickest way to do that, the most impactful way to do that, was by getting involved in more general disability organizations.
Mhm.
So I began interacting with folks from the autism community, from folks local to me in Philadelphia, and I began learning a lot about what disabled life looks like depending upon your diagnosis, your means, where you live, and what struggles you have daily. One thing that I've learned over and over again is that disabled people everywhere, anyone who is disabled is doing the best that they can with what they have. And I find that really, really strong.
Mm-hmm. Uh, you're disabled. You're disabled. Your disabled joy video series is inspiring.
Thank you.
What inspired your start? What inspired you to start this project? And
This
what
is a
have
good
you been?
question, Joanna. Thank
Mhm,
you. So I began recording videos for Your Disabled Joy in March or April this time last year. What inspired me to do this is that I am naturally a pessimist. I'm like,
mhm,
I can be a very downhearted and negative if I let myself be. So Your Disabled Joy became a reminder that disabled joy is possible and disabled lives are worth celebrating. That was a reminder for myself and also for my audience.
mhm,
I loved doing Your Disabled Joy because it let me meet and interact with many other disabled people. Honestly, I was expecting maybe a series of 10 videos at most.
mhm,
And when I finally stopped, I was at maybe 70 or 80 videos. So it
mhm,
went much farther than I thought it would. And it went to different nations, different parts of the US. It was a real wonderful thing to see and to be a part of. You can find the entire playlist of Your Disabled Joy on my YouTube channel. Um, and I also share it kind of on my social media as time allows, mainly my LinkedIn.
mhm,
I got to talk not only with disabled people that I didn't know, but also disabled people that I did know. My coworkers, my friends, my colleagues, and I got to hear their stories and I got to see a side of them that I didn't really have a chance to see before. I consider myself very lucky to be able to hear those stories and to be able to really carry them forward.
mhm,
If I could go back and do it all again, one thing that I would do is really improve my accessibility features on those videos. Get the good captions, get an ASL interpreter if needed. Subscribe to services like Otter.ai to get that better captioning and better transcriptioning. Uh, so if I ever do something similar to Your Disabled Joy again, and I probably will, I will definitely put access first. That was the lesson that I learned.
mhm. So, yeah, did you see any commonalities in the people you talked to?
Uh, when you watch pop culture, most depictions of disability tend to focus about around how terrible disabled life is or how inspirational a disabled person is because they overcame challenges.
Mhm,
Um, and I think what Your Disabled Joy shows is that there's also many opportunities for joy just in daily disabled life. We don't need anyone to come and save us to
mhm,
experience joy. We don't need to be cured to experience joy. We don't even need to um, be met with gifts or better treatments. Although those things are all very welcome, don't get me wrong.
mhm,
Disabled joy is worth experiencing. Disabled lives are worth valuing. And that's what I think Your Disabled Joy shows.
mhm. Let's see. Um, what have you learned? Oh, see, what have you learned from? Oh, you might throw over this kind of. What have you learned from the diverse range of individuals you've interviewed?
Sure. Disability is diverse and disability is vast. It intersects with many other identities and life circumstances. So I really tried to make sure that I had as many disabled voices as possible, realizing, of course, that I am human and I do make mistakes and I didn't
Mhm,
have all the time in the world to devote to this project. Um, one thing that I learned, as I probably have mentioned before, is
mhm,
that everyone everywhere is doing the best they can with what they have. And if we bring more resources to disabled causes, we will see better disabled outcomes in terms of quality of life, in terms of work output, and in terms of voices being amplified.
mhm. As the chairman of the Philadelphia Mayor's Commission on People with Disabilities, what are some of the key initiatives and projects you're currently working on?
Joanna, thank you for this question. So I love serving as chairman of the Philadelphia Mayor's Commission for People with Disabilities because I come from a family of civil servants, and I also went to graduate school for local government management. So local government is one of my big passion projects. It's a very small area of interest, but one that really captures my interest. Um, One of the first things we did during my tenure as chair was we trained all city employees, all 16,000 of them or so, in how to include neurodiverse people, both in terms of neurodiverse workers and visitors, in case we have guests, citizens you interact with, visitors to any city venue like the Wells Fargo Center or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We've also scheduled public meetings with members of Philadelphia City Council, the city's streets departments, the city police force. And I really feel good about how different city departments want to have that disabled buy-in. They want to consult with us. They want to hear from us. And it's a real joy for me to bring those voices to the table.
Mm-hmm.
I should add that Philadelphia is not only one of the poorest major US cities, but it's also the major US city with the highest percentage of disabled people. We're about 17% of the population here. That averages out to, I think, like 240,000, maybe 250,000 people, which is very significant. So that's just one of the reasons I also love Philadelphia, the best city in the world.
Yeah, it's one I hope to visit someday.
We'd love to have you.
Let's see, being a member of the Disability Hall of Fame and a trustee of Awesome Disability, what are some of the most rewarding aspects of your involvement with this organization?
Sure. Excellent question. I love being a trustee with Awesome Disability because it lets me fund distinct and unique disabled led social impact projects. With Awesome Disability, I and 9 other disabled trustees or funders pool our money together each month, and then we donate that sum, which is $1,000, to a different disabled led project every single month. So we funded programs like Disability Victory, which helps disabled people learn how to run for office, be effective office holders, to work at the polls, or to work in a politician's office, getting more voices in political life here in the US. We've also funded transporting wheelchairs to newly disabled individuals. And we funded a mentorship program for folks on the autism spectrum, but who also have deafness, whether that's unilateral or total. One recent joy is that we funded a project that translated suicide prevention resources into ASL. So we provided needed resources to a fairly heavily impacted population in conjunction with an organization called Deaf Health. That was something that I was really, really proud to contribute toward in my own very small way.
Mm-hmm. Death health. That sounds like an oxymoron.
uh, so one thing that I love about Deaf Health is that all of their employees, come from the deaf community.
Oh,
It's
death.
not
Okay.
deaf, yeah. It's not a community that I'm a part of, but I've read about deaf history, and I try to include deaf voices wherever I can.
Yeah. For a second there, I thought you said death.
Okay. My apologies.
um, let's see. Could you share more of your support? Let's see. Could you share more about your support group for disabled leaders off the record? How do you envision this community impacting the lives of its members?
That's a good question, Joanna. So, one thing I really believe in is peer support. It's not a replacement for professional mental health help, but at the same time, it's more accessible than other forms of support, I would say. We run off the record through a platform called the Dissability Leadership Collective. I've always thought that disabled leaders need a space to seek support, seek honest feedback. And the best way to do that, I think, is by enlisting other disabled leaders so that we can all support one another. Um, you know, there are some issues, there are some experiences that can only be fully understood by other disabled people. And I really value taking, 1 hour every month to just decompress, have unrecorded time because we meet virtually, and just to share honestly and openly where we are, where we want to be, and how we hope to get there.
So, how do you balance your advocacy work with self care and maintain your own well being?
Sure. I am someone who really lives off of schedules and who really lives off to do lists. Naturally, left to my own devices, Joanna, I'm a very messy guy. I'm very disorganized. And that doesn't always make for good leadership. So I'm someone who really gets a lot of value out of those tools, those to do lists, those planners, or whatever. Um, just as I would schedule in working on a project or scheduling in a meeting, so too do I schedule in dinner with my wife, vacations to see my family or friends, or even just time for myself. If I'm reading a book, if I'm hiking, if I'm watching some, God forgive me, some stupid reality TV show. Um, just because you have to pencil it in doesn't make it any less authentic or any less impactful. Uh, you know, be really intentional about your self care because if you let disability advocacy take over your life, it will take over your life.
Mm-hmm. Any advocacy will. What advice would you give to others living with rare diseases, disabilities who may be struggling to find their voices or
This is
advocate for themselves?
Yeah, this is a really good question, Joanna. Thanks for asking it. So, one thing about disability is that it is everywhere, whether we realize it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, no matter what community we're in, disability is there as well. What this means is that we can start where we are. We can do what we can. I tend to believe, and probably you do too, Joanna, that the disability community, both in the US and globally, gets a lot stronger each time someone speaks up for the first time. Uh, with each new voice, we gain diversity, and in diversity, there is strength. I do believe that. When it comes to people facing a rare diagnosis or an orphan disease for the first time, lean on your supports. There is a support network out there. If there's not a formal support group for your disability or your child's disability, you can start one. You don't need to incorporate as a nonprofit right away. You can just find open space and host an in-person meeting if that's your jam. Uh, there's also resources online. Uh, NORD, the National Organization for Rare Diseases, is a great resource. So is Global Genes.
Mm-hmm.
I have the great honor of working with the Orphan Disease Center and the Gene Therapy Program at the University of Pennsylvania for 4 years. I was an employee there. And the lengths that those researchers went to find treatments and other ways to lead to better outcomes for little disabled kids, that was really, really powerful for me. And people out there do want to help, and all you have to do is trust and make that first step.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Looking ahead, what are your hopes and aspirations for the future of disability advocacy and inclusion?
That's fair. So as I've mentioned disability is diverse and it intersects with tons of other identities. I think that disabled Americans are the largest minority group, um, perhaps in the nation, almost certainly in the world. And how we honor that is by trying to incorporate and lift up as many disabled voices as possible. Uh, One way that I do this myself is by I tend to reject pretty much any speaking opportunity that is where I'm the only disabled person speaking, right? If I'm the only disabled person speaking to a bunch of non-disabled people, the first thing I'm going to tell them to do is listen to other disabled people who don't look like me, don't sound like me, who might have completely opposite opinions that I do, and that's totally fine. We are all entitled to our own opinions. Um, Moving forward, I think one of the biggest challenges, but also one of the biggest opportunities, right, facing disabled groups and disabled people is that our groups, our projects, our causes need funding. So Americans like you and I are very generous people. We donate to GoFundMe's, we donate to annual drives. The US has thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of federally recognized nonprofits. We love to help each other out, even if it doesn't seem like it all the time. But very few of those donated dollars go to go to disability causes, and that's not wonderful for the future of our movement. Even though disability pride is picking up steam as a cause and a concept, and even though we thankfully have many disabled people like yourself and myself willing to speak up and get involved, movements take money and momentum takes money. So
Mhm.
that is, as I look forward, kind of one of our main challenges.
Mhm. Yeah, and something we need to remember is disabilities are not always visible.
That's also true.
Um, so, as we come to the end of today's episode, I want to extend my deepest gratitude to Nico for sharing his incredible journey with us, his dedication and to advocacy, community building, and spreading joy to serve as a reminder as a inspiration to us all. Remember, Rare Connection is not just a podcast; it's a platform for connection, education, and hope. There's a Facebook page also for the podcast for anybody wanting to go there, um, or you can also comment on this post because it will be available after. Um, if if you or someone you know is affected by a rare disease, how know that you are not alone. Reach out, connect, and together let's continue to navigate this journey courage, compassion, and resilience. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, stay connected, stay informed, and stay hopeful. This is Joanna signing off. Take care, and remember, you are rare, you are resilient, and you are valued. Thanks.
Of course.